The Poe Dameron comic finally released its first issue on April 6th, and in many ways was exactly what we were told it would be when we first learned of its production several months ago. Poe's character was obviously very well received in The Force Awakens, leaving many fans, myself included, wanting to know more about Poe and his backstory, and this comic really doesn't waste any time thrusting you back into action about what exactly was going on in the events surrounding The Force Awakens, or more so, the events actually leading up to The Force Awakens. Now, before anything else, let me just recommend to anyone reading this comic to put on the main music theme to Star Wars when you read the opening crawl just inside the cover. It just adds so much to the beginning of any Star Wars story. With that said, the comic begins like a lot of new series do, basically thrusting you right into action from the start before really beginning to flesh out the story a few pages in. And that story so far seems to be centered around finding a character who had very little screen time in The Force Awakens, but still held plenty of people's intrigue, and that person is Lorsan Tekka. Trying not to spoil too much, I'll just say that it's pretty cool getting a little bit more in-depth with a couple of these characters and the current struggle that they're going through. In the main Star Wars series comics, we get to see much more of Leia's character developed, to where she is so much cooler to me now because of that. And in Poe Dameron issue 1, we get to see a bit more of the older Leia as well, on top of a little bit more of an introduction to a few other Resistance fighters. On the whole, it was a solid first issue. Good, but maybe not necessarily great. And I don't mean that to sound discouraging at all, especially considering that I felt the same way about the first issue of Marvel's current main Star Wars series. That one really took off in a big way, and pretty quickly too, and I'd anticipate the same from the Poe Dameron comic. It's going to be a deeper look into a very cool character, and also taking a deeper look into some much lesser known parts of the galaxy to try and find a character who is also very much lesser known at this point. All of it coming together will give much more of an idea as to certain events that led up to where we currently are within the movies, and more detail about the actual characters themselves as well. And much more likely than not, plenty of other adventures will spawn out of this all too, rather than there just being one ace pilot searching for an old man that's somewhere in the galaxy. If you've got an itch to know more about certain events immediately before those of The Force Awakens, you're not going to want to miss out on the Poe Dameron comic. If pretty much every other new Star Wars comic that Marvel has done in the past few years is any indication, Poe Dameron has got a very bright future. Anyway, that is all for today. I just wanted to give a couple quick thoughts on this comic that I am very excited about. If there's any topics you'd like to see me cover regarding the Star Wars comics, please feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what you'd like to hear, and I'll see if I can whip something up for you. Thanks for watching, everybody.